founder of DLA Ignite. Today I've got Kyle Jepson from HubSpot on, and we're going to talk about education and the importance of why we should educate ourselves. I'm a great believer that every day is a school day, and I'm constantly trying to learn things, and we're going to talk about and argue why that's an important thing. Before we get into it, Carl, explain to people where they can get hold of you.
Yeah, for sure. I am very active on LinkedIn. Kyle Jepson, I believe it's /Kyle Anthony Jepson, my full name. But LinkedIn is a great place to find me.
And you are very active on social media, and I don't know if that's a requirement of being on HubSpot or being senior and visible in HubSpot, but you, like a lot of people on HubSpot, are very visible on social media.
It's not a requirement. No, LinkedIn. A couple of years ago, I just started posting a few short videos explaining what I thought were underrated features inside the HubSpot platform. And a few connections I had at the time really liked it. And so I kept doing it. And now people follow me, and I do these videos daily. It seems to be going really well for me. So I never had the intention of building a following on LinkedIn, but that is what has happened.
And that's interesting, because what you've done is, by accident, you found that actually people are out there seeking knowledge.
Yeah.
And I know that you work for a product company, and obviously people, well, not obviously, but people that will seek knowledge on a particular product, whatever it is. But you've actually come across that by accident. But people are out there, they want to be educated.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. At HubSpot, we have a sort of educational division called HubSpot Academy, and we make these free online courses, either about how to use HubSpot tools or related topics. So I teach people how to use HubSpot's CRM and sales tools. By extension, I create just basic sales education that you can implement whether you're using HubSpot or not. But that's all pretty long form content. These courses take 4, 6, 8 hours to complete. What I'm doing on LinkedIn is 30, 60, 90-second videos showing just one specific feature of HubSpot. And that they both are successful, but they're serving very different needs, it seems. And some people really just want a short little snippet of education every day, which is what they follow me on LinkedIn for. And some people don't want that. Some people want to sit down and set some time aside and take some notes and go deep. And that's what the HubSpot Academy side of things is. And they're not in competition with each other. They're very complementary offerings, as it turns out.
So we called this talk, "A person that educates has something to give." There's the different types of content and the different types of education, and I totally agree with you. I think that they complement each other, because we could sit there and read a book, or we can sit there and read a 300-word article.
Yeah,
they complement each other. We're still gaining something. But this overarching thing about, if we're to reach out to the internet to find, because currently we're patting ourselves on the back and saying that people come to us, but there must be people out there that are not educating themselves. So what would you say to them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's kind of two sides of that. So if people listening to this work at a company, and that company is in business, it generates revenue of some sort, then that company has some knowledge of value. A part of what people pay you for is your expertise in whatever field you're in, right? Whether you have designed a product or you offer a service or whatever it is, you understand some problem really well. And I mean, like I said, my target audience primarily is salespeople. I think we really underappreciate the amount of knowledge salespeople have, because they consult with people in a particular industry all day, every day. And they hear what all the most common problems are, and they hear what solutions everybody has tried that everyone thinks will work but won't work. But they don't generally use that for anything but making sales, right? And if some of that knowledge could just be packaged and shared online in articles or short videos or whatever's easiest for the salesperson, now your company becomes a source of education to people. And even people who may not quite be in the market for buying your solution yet will learn from you and will build trust with you, so that when it comes time to buy from you, they're willing to do that. So on the one side, I think every company can educate on something. I think every person at a company is an expert in some piece of that company and could probably create education that if they could just find the right people to offer it to, would resonate and be valuable. But on the other side, I mean, you've mentioned a few times, I really like what you said, every day is a school day. I think the nature of the modern world is whatever field you're in, if you want to succeed and continue succeeding, education is going to be a key component of that because the world just changes so rapidly now. And I think previously we used to think like, what is the college major that's going to help someone succeed in the world today? And like the answer was kind of always computer science. Yeah. But now it's not that you need to quit your job and go back to school full time for 4 years and get a degree in something. It's just that you need to stay abreast of all the different things that impact your career, both directly and indirectly, right? Sometimes it will be, some sort of training specific to the job you're trying to do, right? Some sort of skill set that is directly relevant. But sometimes it's just understanding, what's happening in the macroeconomic environment, or what's happening with the competition, or what's happening with new technology trends and how that might impact your industry down the road. And I think if you're always seeking to learn, then that's also valuable. So everyone should be learning and everybody should be educating, and we can come together and help each other in this. We all have different blind spots. And if I'm seeking to learn and you're seeking to teach the same thing, we can come together and then maybe I can teach you something too. And it's good for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's so important. My background is that, I used to sell ERP systems, but I started selling payroll systems and then moved into accounting systems. I've sold CRM systems as well. But it got to a point in my life where I wanted to do something else, which is why I started to get into social media and learn about it. And then ultimately I've written 3 books about it. So there is a natural progression. But my point being is not about talking about myself. The point being is it's an example of where what you can do is you can, when my parents were born, you went and got a degree or whatever, you got a job and you're in it for life.
Yeah.
And now you're not, you chop and change and you switch. But part of that is through your own curiosity and self-education.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there are just so many opportunities for that now. I mean, and it's not even the opportunities for self-education are not, this idea isn't new, right? There's always been like public libraries where you could go check out a book on, economics, if that's what you want to learn, philosophy, whatever it is. But now, whatever it is you want to learn, you don't even have to walk down to the library, right? You can just hop online and you can find credible experts who are sharing videos on YouTube or writing a blog or something. And so, yeah, absolutely. If for people who are thinking of changing careers, completely changing industries, there's no, I think it's much easier now to just kind of organically learn some things and find interest. I didn't realize, I think I could really bring some value if I move to this industry over here. And that's very exciting.
So one of the things that when I first started working in business, there was very much that the saying was that information is power.
Yeah.
Which is what you did was you learned something and you became an expert at it. But what you did is you held that information, right, because of the fact that if you had that information, the company had to employ you, and therefore they wouldn't make you redundant or fire you because you were the expert in that subject.
Yeah.
I then and when worked for this particular individual who basically said, no, what I'm going to do is I take all the information that I've got and I'm going to give it to people.
Yeah.
And I actually thought, really, why would you do that? Because information is power. It's like, and actually what happened was transformational for me. I watched it. I watched him doing it. Dominic Regan's his name. And I watched him do it. And what happened was that more people liked him, more people came to him, because when he shared the information, he was seen as the expert, but more of the expert. We'll go to Dominic because he's the person that knows about this stuff, and he'll give it to us.
Yeah.
And this is kind of way that you are, Kyle, which is that you've presented yourself as an expert, not as I'm going to hold it all in, but actually I'm going to share it all out.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is such an important transformation that's been happening for 10, 20, I don't know how long it's been going on. And yet some companies are very slow to adopt it, especially in sales teams. We see salespeople who still believe I need to keep the information a secret, because then folks will have to come to me and ask for it.
Yeah.
But what they fail to comprehend is that actually that information is somewhere else on the website. You can't.
Yeah.
The internet has made everything available, and the best thing you can do is present yourself as a person who shares information. And I think what you said, Tim, is so interesting, that there was this worry, and sometimes there's still this worry, that if I share this information, then what value am I? You have the information. What turns the example I always think of? I recently bought a home. This house here, my wife and I, we've had it about a year, and there are some repairs that need to be done, some things we'd like to improve. And a lot of times, what we'll do is we'll go to YouTube and we'll watch an explanation of how to do these home repairs, right? And you get these people who are employed as plumbers or as contractors or as whatever, showing you exactly step by step how to do it. And like, if you're a really strong do-it-yourself sort of person, to have a great toolbox full of wrenches and things, you can take it on. But if you're more like me, you realize, wow, that guy really knows what he's doing with plumbing. I should just have him come do this, because I will break it if I try, right?
Yep.
And so you would think in a service industry like plumbing, if you tell people how to do the job, you would lose business. But the opposite is true. Yep. What you do is you demonstrate how good you are at the job, and you make people appreciate how
difficult it is. And you go, I'm going to get someone in.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Whoa. Okay. I thought it would be easy. It's not easy. I will definitely hire the person who has the credentials to do this. And so that's just such an important thing. I think intuitively it doesn't make sense to us, but it turns out sharing information is always helpful, and it's good business too.
And Andrew's made a really good point. Andrew's a very listens in a lot, and I actually missed him by a couple of minutes in Aberdeen on Saturday night. Actually, I nearly bumped into him, but I didn't. Andrew says, we are in a time where companies are reducing their funding for learning. Social media can help not only learn and grow, but also help with solutions to everyday tasks.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing. Funding and learning, it's tricky, because to a certain point, for certain bits of knowledge, you are going to have to pay to get trained to learn those things. But more and more, there's free education available. And I mean, the nature of free education is some of it's very good and some of it's not very good. Yes. But I mean, hopefully, even in a world where budgets are getting tighter and many companies, for better or worse, may decide that learning and training and upskilling are the things that we don't need to invest in right now, there should still be opportunities for you to learn something that is valuable. Yeah. And I mean, by extension, to start, if you can start sharing your education for free, people are more open to that now, because paid opportunities are closing up to them.
Andrew makes another good point. The lack of succession planning is widespread in all companies. If they realize that everyone should leave one day, give them the best tools to move on, and that will build your company's reputation as a learning company.
Interesting.
It's a really interesting point, Andrew, because I know when we've taken on people, I've often said to them, I'm going to learn you. I'm going to teach you a whole load of stuff, and then you're going to leave. And I know that. But in 10 years' time, you're going to say that you learned everything because you came and worked at my company. And it's kind of like quite often in sports, where you get a lot of teams at the lower level, and they're the people that actually are building the talent for the top teams, and the top teams then pull those out. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too. Something I've noticed at HubSpot and at certain other companies, this thing seems to be starting. I noticed a lot of people who used to work at HubSpot on their LinkedIn profile or whatever will call themselves HubSpot alumni, right? And where other companies I've worked at, that was not the case, right? Like, once you left the company, it was just one bullet point lower on your resume, right? But that people frame themselves as HubSpot alumni, I think builds this sense of you do come to places and you learn and you gain experience. And I think as a company, if you can build that sense of we take good care of our people, even if they don't stay very long, that can attract more people to you, and which is always good, I think.
And what do you think about because there's also different types of training, isn't it? If you think about, let's take HubSpot as an example, just pick a company out the air. And because it's not just about maybe learning about the CRM, it also may be about learning a CRM in a particular vertical.
Yeah.
And about learning and getting vertical knowledge. Because I've worked in lots of different verticals, and I believe that all businesses are the same and work generally the same, but in certain verticals, there may be different ways of them having to deal with things because of a particular requirement. Oil and gas, for example, have or life sciences, which is regulated or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's also about verticalization, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point. At HubSpot Academy, well, the education we produce, we try to make it as broadly applicable as possible. But what we're finding is that there are certain HubSpot partners who are starting to build that vertical specific education. Right? We have some partners who specialize in manufacturing, because manufacturing is kind of it's very different from like HubSpot. We're a software company, and we work on very small deals at a very high velocity, whereas a manufacturing, it feels
You've got discrete manufacturing, you've got process manufacturing, you've got make to order, configure to order.
Yeah, and also it's just like manufacturing has kind of this reputation of being an older, more established industry, right? And HubSpot loves this idea of inbound, right? The sorts of things we've been talking about: content marketing and social media and education, and share information, and it'll attract people to you. And manufacturing is one of those industries where people very commonly will be like, yeah, but it won't work in manufacturing, because manufacturing has been doing it this way for 300 years, and it's not true, right? But anytime anyone says, yes, there's this trend happening in the world, but you can't apply it to this vertical, I think there is an opportunity for someone who's smart and knows that vertical really well to come in and say, actually, here's how it does work in this vertical. You just need expertise like I have.
We work with a company in Canada, the manufacturing company, and there was something that I don't know what it was, but the person that we had over in Canada, our partner, was said, walk me around the factory. So walk me around the factory, and and there was a welding thing going on. And he got talking to the welder, and the welder said, there's a particular type of welding that we do here. There's only 6 of us in the world, or Canada or something, that know how to do this particular type of welding. And our partner said, can you show us how to do it? So this guy said, yeah. So we filmed it and we put it on LinkedIn, and it went ballistic, because you think welders aren't on LinkedIn, they are, but they're all going, wow, that's amazing, I haven't seen that done, or and even people that know something about manufacturing, engineering, for example. If you look at the hashtag engineering on LinkedIn, there's a massive following to it. And it was amazing how people piled in, and it was about, they weren't interested in the ship that was in the foyer, which is what the somebody wanted to put out. They were interested in what was going on in the welding.
Yeah, and that's so interesting to me. I work at a software company, and I talk about software, and HubSpot as a platform, CRM and marketing and service software, is meant not just for people in the software industry, but people in all industries. But I feel sometimes very limited in just that my whole career has been in software and tech, and that's kind of its own special bubble, right? It does its own little thing. And I think outside of that bubble, it's very easy and reasonable to think those of us who live in tech are just in our own magical world, and we don't understand how the real world works. And so when you can have someone who is outside of that, right, who is a welder and says, I weld for a living, and look at this amazing thing I can do, LinkedIn will light up, right? Because there are all the other welders out there who are tired of hearing from people like me, right? And just want to see, like, here's a person who really understands my life and my world, right? Here's someone who's doing the work in an incredible way and inspires me to do my work better. And I think we just need so many more people who have that real practical, they're practitioners, right? They go and do the work every day, sharing that on social media. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn, whatever platform you use. And I think you will be amazed if you have a specialty in some particular vertical and you can demonstrate that in a video, you'll be amazed how many people pop up and connect with you and want to know more. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I know someone who works in that works for a company that makes toilets, and she said, "Oh, it's really boring." And I said, "I can't believe." I said, "Everybody wants to know. There must be something about the history of toilets and stuff." So, surely just some 15, 30-second video on TikTok or something like that, people would be interested.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember how it happened, but a few months ago, I went through this phase where there's always construction here in Boston. They're building these high rises. And I saw these tower cranes that just seemed to pop up in the middle of the night. And I wondered, how do they do that? And I've been looking on YouTube, and there are some okay videos from tower crane operators. But like, if anyone listening is a tower crane operator, you should just like go into the nitty gritty details of, I want to know how you get up there. Is it a ladder? Is it an elevator? Is the door locked when you get up there? What happens if the power goes out? Like, I just want to know every step of that process. And as near as I can tell, nobody's documented it, right? Mm-hmm. And same for building toilets or welding or whatever it is you do. In some ways, the mundane is the most interesting, right? Like, we've all seen construction sites, but we never pause to think all of the complexity and ingenuity that goes in to make that operate at the speed it does. We build these structures incredibly quickly. And I think if someone can take a piece of mundane life and show the internal complexity and make it interesting, that's going to be some of the best content on the internet.
And I think that's a great phrase in which to finish, Kyle. Taking the mundane and turning into the interesting is a great piece of content. Love it. Yeah. Remind people where they get hold of you.
Yep. So the best place to find me is on LinkedIn, Kyle Jepson. I'm one of the few Kyle Jepsons and the only one at HubSpot. Come connect with me. Let me know that you heard about me here on Tim Talk. Yeah. I'd love to connect, see who is here.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. And Andrew, thank you for your comments, as always.